Hello YouTube, I am Nathan Martin with the Divine Pollination Hive and the UnityProcess.com. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the Mandela Effect whistleblower. It's a discussion on the scientist who spoke out about what we understand as the Mandela Effect on the 4chan forums. I initially became aware of the Mandela Effect whistleblower as a result of the Esoteric Detective's video that he posted 2 weeks ago. And I didn't actually see it until just a few days ago, and when I was going through it, I discovered that, there might be something more to this. Now, he says in this video that it is a CERN scientist, but actually it's clearly not a CERN scientist. This whistleblower is beyond CERN, but he does discuss CERN. And so what we're going to do is we're going to break down his entire message, all the messages that he sent, all the questions that he answered. We're going to read through them all and we're going to discuss them. If this is something that interests you, stay tuned. The importance of objectivity. There are typically multiple points of view from which any set of events can be viewed and interpreted. Openness to a range of insights from multiple points of view and a willingness to question one's own point of view are crucial to objectivity. Objectivity is achieved to the extent that one has studied a wide range of perspectives relevant to an issue, obtained insights from all of them, seen weaknesses and partiality in each, and integrated what one has learned into a more comprehensive, many-sided whole. Each should serve to correct exaggerations or distortions in the others and to add facts not highlighted in the others. That's by Richard Paul and Linda Elder in their book on how to detect media bias and propaganda. A very excellent book. I highly recommend it. It is linked below. The reason why we're talking about objectivity is because I don't necessarily believe this whistleblower fully. I see his biases. He's not, or they're not, he, she, I don't know. They have biases. And they're employees. They're doing what they're told. They do what they're told and then follow through on that. So their information is going to be biased. It's going to be based on this perspective. You're going to see in this that he really believes in what he's doing to an extent, including the deception. But at the same time, there's kind of a regret there. And this also might be due to the law of free will, where free will must be given. So we have to be able to see this information to discover the why. There's a whole lot of information on the Mandela Effect, but there's a wide range of why. And I don't want to get into the whys that I don't like, but this is a why that actually makes sense from my perspective, at least some of it. And so I'm going to dissect this a little bit. So 4chan is a web forum where people can post messages anonymously. Whistleblowers tend to use this forum to release sensitive information. I transcribe everything, and so I place a timestamp of each message from the scientist unless a timestamp was removed from the screenshot, in which case I use a timestamp of the next message instead. I do not place all the questions that the scientist is responding to, but in a few of them I chose to. And there were quite a few unreasonable fools asking him questions, which the scientist rightfully chose to ignore. When you download those screenshots for yourself and go through them, which I have the link below, I highly recommend that you look through a lot of the questions. There's a lot of douchebags on there who aren't taking him seriously. They're not being objective, and they're not realizing the gravity of what's going on. First message, August 21st, 2016, around 9:58 p.m. I am one of 23 scientists responsible for what you call the Mandela Effect. I'm here to answer questions regarding the original timeline and why it is happening. I will not disclose where I work or what I do at work. So in response to a message where somebody says, why did you guys choose to change the original spelling of the Bernstein Bears? He says, you are being deceived. The original timeline was Bernstein Bears, specifically the Bernstein Bears. Aaron was the update, Ehrenstein is the layer to hide the truth. And I think what he meant there was Ehrenstein is the layer to hide the truth. But the Aaron part was the first change, and the second change with the Ehrenstein. But he did say Stein there, so that's what I wrote. The next message, he states, "Not everyone is accepting the updates. For some reason, the veil isn't working on some people. Currently, it is spiraling out of control, and we anticipate a larger population that will experience memory anomalies within the next few years. By 2020, everything will settle. There are differences in memory because you are not supposed to remember any of it. In fact, you've been implanted with multiple layers of memories that are false. Somehow you have remembered, and this is very concerning. I encourage you to try to hold on to your memories." My thoughts. Is the veil that is being spoken of connected to the hyperdimensional control matrix as discussed by Gnostics, shamans, and other mystical sects? Does this have to do with the Saturn machine? Why will everything settle by 2020? What is so special about that time frame? So you can see that we're actually being actively deceived with false memories. But why? So our remembering is concerning, and yet the scientist is encouraging us to try to hold on to our memories. Why the seeming contradiction? And also, how does one go about holding on to our memories? What does that mean? I mean, what, from at least his perspective? I know what it means from my perspective, but from his perspective, it's like somebody saying, have faith, just believe. Hold on to your memories. It's not very practical. It doesn't really do a whole lot, but I do see the contradiction between hold on to your memories and remembering is concerning. This is a proof of concept. If we can overwrite the population with false memories, unfortunately, the future will be mostly manufactured. There was one person, and we are not sure how, that has somehow caused this unraveling effect. We have been trying to locate him, but he is currently hiding. This person has created the breakdown in the veil, and we are concerned that the whole system will fail unless we stop it in the next few years. This reality is a close copy of what we would call the real Earth. Unfortunately, the Earth was destroyed in 2012. My thoughts. This person that is being spoken of reminds me of Neo character from the Matrix trilogy and John Murdoch from Dark City. The One, this person that is causing problems in the breakdown of the veil. In both instances, neither really knew who they were until the plot unfolded more. So there's a chance that this person doesn't even know he's doing it. In fact, I could probably pretty much guarantee it. Now, he might have a clue that something's going on, but he doesn't exactly know why or what. More thoughts? What is the collective consciousness of humanity being spoken of? How is this person causing problems with the collective veil? Is this a bad thing? What if it's beneficial? Now, it's obviously bad to these scientists. It's bad to the scientist's employer. But what if it's beneficial for us, the people who are behind the veil? What mechanism is this person using to block the memory implantation techniques? So if this one is actually doing something, how is he doing that? How could shadow work and the individuation process discovered by the late psychologist Carl Jung be related to this? And speaking of that, Carl Jung also discussed the collective unconscious. He had our consciousness, the collective unconscious, our personal unconsciousness, and then also our subconscious. The collective unconscious was like a puddle of beliefs, attitudes, patterns of relating that everybody has. It was like the dominant part of ourselves. And our shadow also lies in this collective unconscious. And then individuation and shadow work is where we go through the process of becoming more of a unique individual and less of a group person. You know, like instead of being led by the group and believing in groups, we become more of an individual who does our own thing, unique, creative. He goes on to say, one of the scientists on our team shares the original name, so we distorted it as much as possible to cover the updates. I cannot say who his name is because it would give away where I work. Sorry. The original name of what? That's one of the questions you should ask in this, and that will actually unfold later. He goes on to say, unfortunately, there was an extinction level event. In order to correct this current version and yet stay similar, we had to give you some updates. These include a larger liver to process the increased toxins, as well as moving some things around because the body would soon be unable to handle the toxicity of the planet. There are too many updates to the body, I don't even know where to start. So we are actually seeing updates to the body, at least according to this guy. And this is something that I was definitely adamant about, but I didn't really understand how it worked because how are doctors going to handle this? I mean, how are doctors going to handle if, something changed because just a timeline merged and a doctor goes to do a surgery and something's not in the right place? How do they know where to look? They could be opening up the wrong place in the person and kill the guy. So that was actually a concern of mine for the whole changes in the body, but that is actually explained here soon. So my thoughts on this is, so our current environment is more toxic. Well, why? Could the toxicity of our world have anything to do with the chemtrailing and chemical additives to our food and water supplies? I mean, they're spraying our skies. They're adding chemicals to our food and water. Why are they doing that? Are they just making it so that we're more controllable, but they're killing us off too fast because of this thing? So they're changing our bodies to be able to keep up with all the things they're adding to us to control us? I think that's really what it's all about. It's a control system. They're poisoning the heck out of us. And in order to keep us alive while yet still killing us, they need to change our body a little bit. Another question is, could chemtrails be for terraforming our world for another species to coexist here with us? Or is it meant to coincide with our physiological changes to make us more susceptible to their counterfeit veils and memory implantation techniques? So this other species could be ET, it could be ED, which is extra dimensional. We don't know what it could be, or maybe even a hybrid. But they're changing our bodies, and they could be doing that to be able to cope with a new species living side by side with us. We use a quantum computer based on our own neural network. Unfortunately, some of the technology was passed down to us to be used for a very specific purpose. Imagine Russian dolls, and you have a pretty good idea of the true nature of our reality. We are manipulating, yet also being manipulated from outside. So our reality is one of these nested layers, and then we are nested within another layer, nested within another layer, etc. And so every layer beyond us has some kind of direct control, or at least input into our layer. And maybe there are some layers inside that we are also manipulating. So quantum technology is obviously not of this world, but was given to us by somebody beyond humanity's veiled level of perception. Who gave it to humanity? For what purpose? Are these extraterrestrials, extra dimensionals? Are these just spirit beings? Astral beings? Are those who are manipulating from outside benevolent or malevolent? Are they the archons spoken of by the Gnostics? Archons being reptilians and greys. To make sure humans continue to experience and have a place to do it, the collective needs more data, and our experience is far more important than the planet itself. In fact, it really doesn't matter whether it is real or virtual. We're having interface problems at the moment. People are reporting recurring headaches after the most recent updates. I don't necessarily have an issue with headaches, but that's what this guy's saying. Sounds a lot like we're being set up for a transhumanism agenda to merge with technology, as Wes Penry discusses in his book Synthetic Intelligence and the Transmutation of Humankind, a roadmap to the singularity and beyond, and I'll link that below, and it's a free ebook. See, where we live does matter, as we are in a relationship with the planet we reside on. Removing us from our planet will not only disturb our connection to the Earth, but also to our source. I do not consent to a move, even if it's supposedly for my own well-being. I'm going to sink with the ship, so to speak. I think this whole we have to leave, it's okay if it's virtual, is a setup. It's not okay if it's virtual. We lose a major aspect of ourself when we disconnect from the Earth, specifically our feelings and emotions. This is kind of our our I amness can come through this connection. I'm not saying that the earth gives us our I amness. I'm just saying that we need this connection to maintain our I amness. So this transhumanism thing, though, really does bother me. They just want us to believe that we really need their solution. So they're creating the problem. They create an extinction level event, or they create a false matrix. They create a lot of problems on the earth to shake us up a little bit, create enough problems to say, hey, we have the solution for you. It's called transhumanism. Why don't you merge with an AI consciousness and become a group soul like us? Fully group soul, and sacrifice your individuality for the sake of survival. But I call BS. No way. I'm not going to do that. I do not consent. Goes on to say, I'm sorry, but that is impossible. Probably because I think the question had something to do with where do you live? I'm not even sure where I am from. We are all clones. We work approximately 5 hours per day on the server, and then we'll get a few hours for socialization. Believe it or not, we are jealous and wish we could be there with you. So there's a server that they're working on. The server is basically where our reality is housed. Is it maybe our collective unconscious that's housed there? Is the server just an interface to our collective unconscious? But the server itself is housing this reality at the very least. At least that's what they're saying. So like I said, the server is probably a metaphor for what houses our reality, but is probably also connected to humanity's collective consciousness. This may be connected to the Gnostic concept of the demiurge, which is an artificial intelligence supercomputer that makes up the matrix structure. It may or may not have initially been designed as a control structure, but it has since become a control mechanism via the veils that separate us from our true nature. So the demiurge wasn't necessarily constructed as something bad or created as something bad, as a control mechanism, but it has become a control mechanism because certain individuals took over control and hid how to operate the computer from us. I think we each have that ability to interface with the demiurge technology and to work through this reality in a way like Neo did in the Matrix movies. But because of certain individuals taking over, certain group souls or certain malevolent beings taking control of the demiurge and preventing us from knowing how to use it, they're the only ones who know how to use it. So now they're creating reality. There's a video that I'm going to link below. It's called The Saturn Machine, or Star Trek and the Saturn Machine. And you can look in that for more information on this whole idea of the Gnostic demiurge and the Saturn Machine. He states, the most common side effects we are dealing with is recurring headaches, shortness of breath, memory loss, and a feeling of just waking up. There are various issues due to the interface changes. The brain had to be rearranged. We increased the size of the base of the brain, reduced the distance of the corpus, and shortened the area of the frontal lobe. Well, I think I know why they did that, first of all, because if you're making the base of the brain bigger, you're making survival instincts bigger, and the frontal lobe is, where our higher thinking is going on, so they're reducing our ability to think more critically. They're really just trying to reduce our ability to think. So they want to put us more into our instincts, fight, flight, freeze, and less in our critical thinking. Apparently somebody was taking a shot at him right before this, so he says, I'm not here to impress you. In fact, I think I'm feeling sad. He thinks. He doesn't really know. I want to be with you on Earth to experience things as well. It is very sad sometimes. Technically, I am on Earth, just not with everyone else. If you've seen the TV show on Netflix, Stranger Things, you have different realities, like the upside down in Stranger Things. I'm not saying he's in the upside down or that's what it looks like, but he's in a different reality on the same planet. It sounds like a noble cause, yes, but unfortunately, if we do not fix the anomalies, there is a possibility of a server crash. That would eliminate this existence for all of us, including myself and the next layer outside of ourselves. I'm not buying that. I think that they're afraid of losing control of the server. I don't think the server can actually crash. And maybe the layers that are going to die off or lose are these control layers. We don't really know what that is. But at least for him and his employers, the scientists and their employers, a server crash is a bad thing. It's yet to be seen if it's really a bad thing for us, though. Many foretold of being saved in 2012. We were saved, and now we are here. My employers have a desire to keep us alive, and hopefully without any previous memories. Unfortunately, there are many errors to correct. You will see very strange things in about a month from now. So we are saved. Yeah, be careful what you hope for. Getting saved. Your savior always ends up becoming a villain, unless, of course, we become our own savior, and we find our inspiration, our creativity, our sovereignty from within. Of course, as employers have a desire to keep us alive. We are their property. We are assets. I think of the movie of Jupiter Ascending, where people were owning planets, and one of the planets was Earth that was owned, and there was a title to the Earth, and then they would loosh farm so that they could prolong their longevity. And loosh farming is where they farm both sexual energy and they also farm fear energy. So they really like it when we're afraid, when we're in war, when our adrenaline is pumping, because they're able to farm that. So yeah, they're farmers and we're the farm. We're the farm animals. They definitely have a desire to keep us alive. Also, we're going to see some strange things in about a month from now. How interesting. That would put things around September 21st or so, going into early October. We'll see. I'm not saying that this guy's correct, but if things start really shaking up and some big-time Mandela effects really start hitting more at that time, or people start waking up more to the Mandela effect, that should be interesting. Now, at the same time that that's happening, it's probably incumbent to cause problems in the world. We call that wagging the dog. For example, if a president is in trouble, politically, he might start a war somewhere. Well, if these people are in trouble because people are getting their memories back, then they might start some calamities around the world to get people focused on the calamities rather than on what's going on with their memories. So, in reference to this color that this guy posted, he says, but it used to be red. And I don't remember that as red. That looks more like a green-yellow to me. But according to this guy, he says it used to be red to him. And the scientist says, if you remember as a color you would call red, or a red-like color, you are from revisions 1 to 4. Originally, the color was different, yes. So for me, I never remember that as color red. That's not in my memory or my timeline. Maybe the timelines have merged and different people from different timelines are there. Apparently, you can be from different revisions. Quite interesting. I hadn't considered that before. Your intuition is the closest thing to the truth you can accomplish. Trust your instinct. Many of the Mandela effects posted online are layers to hide the real things. It's fairly involved. Intuition is definitely the start of working on the layer of truth. We can trust that, yes. But it is a beginning point, not the ending point. This is why objectivity is so important. There's a formula for truth, and it's knowledge plus understanding minus contradictions equals wisdom or truth. Now, if we have something that's not like that, it's a lie, then you have a lack of knowledge or hidden knowledge minus logic and understanding, which means there's logical fallacies, plus contradictions equals folly or a lie. So intuition is just the starting point. It says, there's something wrong with what's going on. I'm spotting a contradiction. So I see a contradiction in this formula. That means there's a lie there. Now that is a starting point. Now I actually have to go into seeking the truth, and I have to uncover the knowledge. I have to discover the why, the logic, and then I have to remove contradictions between the what and the why, between knowledge and understanding. And then I can finally find the truth. And that's what we're doing in this video and other series of videos, trying to discover the truth, trusting our intuition. As far as him and where he's stationed, the base he's at or the reality he's in, he says, unfortunately, we cannot leave. We serve approximately 5 years' time, and we are returned to the collective. We come from the same source that humans do, but we are here instead of there, which is why I'm sad. I really don't want to do this anymore. So he's a clone. His thoughts or his mind, his consciousness was taken out of the collective the human collective and placed in this clone. And he wants to return to the human collective, either, I don't know if as a body or, yeah, I think so, as a body. He wants to get back and experiencing things here on Earth with us. I could not find the question that he was talking about in this, but we're just going to read it anyways. This is a deception. There is one finite reality and one overworked and overstressed server. And we are the ones who fix the code that is currently unraveling and could potentially cause a system crash. All due to one person. So, again, we have this person that's messing things up. Maybe it's one person, maybe it's a group of people, maybe it's a type of thing. But there's a server again. This is the Gnostic Demiurge technology. And he is somebody who's trying to fix the code, the fractal-based code. You remain yourself, but are also part of the collective. Imagine a drop of water in the sea. That is the only way I can describe it using the English language. So Jung definitely talked about this. He called it the collective consciousness and the collective unconscious specifically. But it is a consciousness type that is collective. And we are unconscious to it. So one guy says, the volume of our craniums have remained almost entirely consistent throughout recorded history. He's basically calling the scientist out and saying, our cranium has been the same, you're full of crap. The scientist states, that's an update in your false memory and anon. I think he's talking about because the guy's name was anonymous. Everybody's anonymous on this. So that's an update in your false memory anon. As their software betters, the more patches and updates are applied, your history will change here and there. That means also our memories will be updated here and there. But certain memories aren't being updated because certain people, or one person specifically, is causing an issue with this. So a lot of the things that you know to be true, like, the Volkswagen spelled with an EN, or Volkswagen spelled with an ON, those kinds of things, are implanted memories. We don't really know what the real one was. Is the implanted memory the wagon with an ON, or is it the implanted memory the EN? We know that the history now shows EN, but I remember ON. So this is where things get really confusing. We see the discrepancy. That's the biggest thing. We see a discrepancy. We see a contradiction. When we spot a contradiction, we know that that is a formula for folly, for a lie. So then we have to start trusting our intuition and researching it further. My thoughts. This is interesting, as I was wondering how surgeons would be able to operate without noticing anything was different in the human anatomy. The false memories were implanted to ensure humans kept going on as if nothing happened. This explains a long-held question of mine. So doctors, surgeons, etc., airplane pilots, truckers who are driving a certain path on the road, their memories are being updated, and so they're not getting lost on the highway. They're not getting lost in surgery. They're not getting lost when they're flying from one airport to the next airport. Why? Because humanity's memories are getting collectively manipulated. What collective consciousness are they manipulating when they falsify our memories? So Freud's view of consciousness, you have the conscious mind, that's 10%, subconscious mind, and that's 50 to 60%, and the unconscious mind, 30 to 40%. It's probably at this unconscious level, but it could also be the subconscious level, where our memories are being manipulated. So if you think of a giant pool that is at the base of this pyramid, that's where the most amount of the consciousness resides. And then our individuality is kind of at the top of the pyramid, where we become the most unique individual. Now, I'm not talking about a hierarchy here. This is different. So try not to get confused between an unnatural pyramid hierarchy and what I'm talking about. We're just talking about a triangle and how the top of the triangle is where you're most conscious, and the base of the triangle is where you're the most unconscious. So he says, yes, you are correct. Most people don't notice, but the brain itself is drastically changed, as well as where the brain stem connects to it. So our brain is being manipulated, not just our mind, our physical anatomy. So here we get a little bit about CERN. CERN is using a collider to introduce anomalies into the server by networking it with multiple D-Wave 4096 machines. The only thing they have accomplished so far is minor anomalies. So what we're actually going through is just minor anomalies so far. Oh my. We have rewritten the entire skeletal structure. The rib cage, the skull, the brain. Wow. That's what I have to say. So somebody left a comment. Also, where did you learn through life where your heart is? For me, it is the left side. Always has been. Now it's more dead center. So scientist replies, originally it was on the left side. Yes, very perceptive. This is one of the anomalies we are trying to fix currently. We also increase the size of the heart as well. So the anomaly, are they trying to remove our memory that it was on the left side, or are they trying to move it back to the left side? Don't know. Increase the size of the heart as well. I don't know why, but maybe one of you do. When you are with a collective, you are not lonely. It's far better than being here. I cannot self-terminate. I have a very controlled existence. This is his sad boohoo story. Poor, poor scientist manipulating humanity. But he's a clone. He has a controlled existence. He doesn't know how to be an individual. This is what all of humanity has to look forward to very soon in the future if they go the transhumanist direction, if they start agreeing to all these changes. If they do this for survival, this is what they're going to get. They're going to have a very controlled existence where you can't even commit suicide. Here's a long one. Like I said earlier, it was an experiment to try and graft another timeline into ours, one that was similar but had subtle differences. But they effed it up. The proof is that people are noticing the differences. That was not supposed to happen. For most people, the spelling of a children's book means F-all. But there are people out there right now wondering what in the hell happened to their children, or why they suddenly have 2 kids when they know for a fact that they never had any before. It's stuff like that. I'm sure more are going to come out, but I'm not sure exactly what. So there's people out there that are missing kids, or they have kids that they never had. What the heck's up with that? That's a really big anomaly, and I wonder if we're going to start seeing that even more. We are currently at 12,783 changes to the original timeline. Most are so subtle that only a small number of people would notice. Wow, that's a lot of changes. Everyone will be awake soon. I must leave soon. I urge you not to forget your original timeline. So wherever he's at, there's people waking up. He's kind of in the middle of the night, sneaking out to get to a computer terminal that interfaces with our reality and, interestingly enough, our internet. So that's kind of an interesting implication, that if he's in a different reality than us, he can still actually connect to our reality via the internet. So they have some kind of an interface there. What we have here in this picture is the original Stan and Jan Bernstein, however you say it, without the Aaron and without the Ain. It says, I'm posting anomalies that others have found and some that have not yet been found. It is important not to forget your original timeline. Again, he's talking about not forgetting. How do we go about that? What exactly do we do to not forget original timeline? Jeremy can help you. You must seek him and find him. Read between the lines. Okay. Jeremy. Jeremy who? What is Jeremy? And he's highlighting Bernstein Bears, Stan and Jan Bernstein. Jeremy can help. Find Jeremy. Read between the lines. There's a picture of original Jiffy peanut butter before it got changed to Jif. This one's wild. Maybe this will help you remember. Please do not forget the original form is on the right. Okay, that's quite interesting. When you look at this picture, you have the one to the right. The rib cage is bigger at the top and narrower at the bottom. That's what I remember. There's these kind of shoulder bones that were there that are no longer there. And yeah, some kind of weird ribs at the top also of the rib cage. I don't see any differences in the arm per se. I don't see any differences anywhere else, but it just seems like the rib cage and those floating ribs are a little bit different as well. but the one on the right seems to be the original. Interesting. The core of the human is consciousness. Look at Donnie Darko. The solar plexar, teleportation of the human body making piloting actions. The alteration of our bodies is beginning to toxify our memories. Release the current information like a DNS flush and regurgitate any information you recollect having. The core of the human is consciousness. Yes, we know that, because consciousness creates matter. Matter does not create consciousness. Look at Donnie Darko. That's a movie. It might be interesting to revisit that movie now in light of this. The solar plexar, I don't know if that's a typo, but because the solar plexus. But there's also what's called the solar plexus chakra, which has to do with our power center. It's represented by the color yellow. What this has to do with teleportation of the human body, making piloting actions, I have no idea. The alteration of our bodies is beginning to toxify our memories. So our memories, I don't really understand that part either. Now he's talking about do a DNS flush. So what is a DNS flush? That's a computer term. DNS is a domain name system. DNS servers convert a domain name, such as example.com, into an IP address, in this case 192.0.32.10. The mapping of the names to numbers can change from time to time. So sometimes the name and the number will no longer match because you get a new server, a new IP address. Now you have to change example.com to the new IP address. So your computer holds a record of DNS entries to save looking them up every time. This is your DNS cache. You can delete those records or flush the cache anytime you like. So in order to speed up the resolving of the matching between example.com and the IP address, you have a cache on your computer that just makes it super fast. It just looks it up there rather than going out online and looking it up. If a website has recently moved servers, you might see the old website for a while. Flushing your DNS cache might help. We explained already how that might help. So how might that help though? How is that going to help us to flush our own DNS cache? We've been moved servers. Is that what's being said? So we're no longer on the same server. We need to flush that. But will that make us lose our old memories, or will that make our old memories connect back to our old server? Is this going to help us reconnect to the old Earth rather than the new Earth? And when I say the old Earth, I mean our original Earth that we want to get back to. I'm not so sure that I want this new virtual Earth. So maybe if I do this DNS flush, I can reach the old Earth again. Or maybe he's saying something else. Maybe this will help us become in line with this new virtual Earth, and then we'll just, be safe and survive and have implanted memories and go on about our business as if we're automatons. So what do you think? So this is his last message. He says, your consciousness was transferred to the server to avoid an extinction level event. You may have noticed updates to your body as well as environment. I don't have much longer. I must leave now. Jeremy Bernstein, good luck. Okay, so there's a mention to the server again, the Gnostic server, an extinction level event, updates to our body as well as environment, such as the continents moving. He doesn't have much longer. He's got to go because everybody's waking up in his office or his reality. And then all of a sudden he says, Jeremy Bernstein, good luck. So I'll get to what that means. So in the beginning of the disclosure, the scientist states that he cannot reveal the name of the other scientists. And then he gives hints about the Bernstein Bears being changed to cover up the scientist's name. And finally he breaks his own rule and gives his name anyway, Jeremy Bernstein. This is a big contradiction and a red flag to me because it's like he's giving away secret information, and the reader is the chosen few to receive it. This is sometimes a mis- or disinformation tactic. So they start off by saying, no, I can't say that, but then by the end they say it anyways. So that's very subtle, but it very well could be misinformation, disinformation from something like a three-letter organization, such as the NSA, CIA, or any number of other organizations. Who knows now? But that is a big red flag for me. However, we know that a lot of the best lies are based in truth. So they could be giving away a lot of truth here, while at the same time creating subtle distortions, like this event that destroyed the world, which maybe nothing got destroyed, we just got uploaded, and we need to flush our DNS and get back to our original reality. We don't really know what it could be, but that's why we need to discern. We need to exercise our discernment. And discernment actually means critical thinking. We need to exercise our critical thinking. If this is either misinformation or disinformation, then it is done with a Gnostic slant that takes into account mystical understanding of the demiurge technology and the fractal holographic reality that we reside within. The principle of correspondence, which is a Hermetic principle, states, as above, so below, as within, so without. It isn't just some silly esoteric or pagan mythology, for it is an insight that explains the scalability of holographic fractal patterns and how they are able to replicate in multiple dimensions, directions, densities, and realities. So it's a mathematical thing. As above, so below is a mathematical principle. That's why it's one of the Hermetic principles, one of the natural laws of our universe. It's not some witchcraft thing. It's not satanic. It is just a fractal truth. While the scientist is supposedly residing in a different layer of reality, he is still connected to our realm via a fractal-based relationship. Their backstory takes this into account. Regardless, the scientist obviously believes what he is doing is for the best for humanity's survival, either because he was programmed to believe it and is spreading misinformation, disinformation. He has an emotional attachment to believe it is so, because, his employer, he could get fired, or he could get killed, or is mostly an automaton with very little free will, but still enough to say something to us. So it could actually have some validity in it. Could individuation be our solution? Individuation is a process of psychological differentiation, having for its goal the development of the individual personality. In general, it is the process by which individual beings are formed and differentiated. In particular, it is the development of the psychological individual as a being distinct from the general collective psychology. In Jungian theory, the self is one of several archetypes. It signifies the coherent whole unifying both the consciousness and unconscious mind of a person. The self, according to Jung, is realized as a product of individuation, which is defined as the process of integrating one's personality. And if I could only pronounce her name, I would. Now is from mindstructures.com on Carl Jung and the individuation process. How does this pertain? Well, if we remember Freud's triangle, in Freud's triangle, we had the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. If becoming a self, a unique self, which is individuation, you become individuated, then now you're a self. That means you have taken your consciousness and your unconscious mind, and you have connected them together. You have bridged the gap between the unconscious and the conscious. And maybe I might say the subconscious, unconscious, and the conscious. This is a type of unity and alignment. The alignment of the self. The self is all of these parts contained together. And that means the ego too, because the ego is kind of part of your unconscious part. So if this is all connected together and you are one, you're in unity within yourself, now you're no longer going to be bound to these changes that are going on in the collective consciousness. In this case, the collective unconscious. So if humanity's collective consciousness is being manipulated from outside through technology of some sort that is utilizing psychological principles as well as other things, they're giving us false memories. But we are doing the individuation process by going into shadow work, by analyzing our thoughts, reflecting on our thoughts, questioning our own questions. If we can question our own questions, we can start to analyze our thinking, reflecting on that. We also need to analyze our feelings, our emotional triggers, and find the patterns in those triggers, because those triggers have a reason for being triggered. A lot of times it's rooted in trauma. So if we can go through this process, and it sounds pretty time consuming, and it's really a lifestyle, we can really differentiate ourselves from this collective unconsciousness, become a whole self, and no longer be susceptible to their manipulations. So I think really this one person that he was talking about, this Neo or John Murdoch figure that is causing problems for their matrix, is really just somebody that is going through and working through their issues. There are lots of great teachers who teach shadow work, and you can align with those people. I myself also teach shadow work in classes and also individual sessions. It is something that I am definitely passionate about. I won't go so far as say that I'm individuated or I'm a whole self, but I'm definitely living a lifestyle of process. And this is why Aline and I, my wife and I, have developed what's called the unity process, which takes the hermetic principles of natural law. It takes shadow work. It takes critical thinking, specifically the trivia method of critical thinking, and emotional process work, and it wraps it all up into a big bundle, and it uses it all to unravel this whole big ball of yarn, this big spider web of enmeshment that we find ourselves in, so that we can become psychologically differentiated, so that we can become a unique individual who is sovereign and creative, a part of this collective. You know, one individual really can do it all. Aline and I have been talking about how it's so important to become an individual. Everybody's like, well, we need to join this group or that group. We need to demonstrate in big groups. It's about a lot of people coming together and doing it and winning. You know, if we can get more of us, we can overthrow them. Well, that's exactly what they want. They want us in groupthink. They don't even care if we overthrow them, because we're not overthrowing them at this higher dimensional level. We're overthrowing a freaking government. Really? It's not going to do anything. It's not a solution. A solution is becoming a unique individual. Even one person who reaches this individual status can throw a whole monkey wrench in their system. And apparently, there's an individual out there who's done that. And if this individual is out there that's done that, congratulations to them. In fact, even if they find him, they can't do anything with him because of free will. If they kill him, if they attack him, if they try to slow him down by drugging him or incarcerating him, they're not going to be able to do anything to him, because then all of a sudden everything he knows goes out into the collective and everybody becomes individuated in an instant. And that would defeat the game. So this person is a grandmaster at chess, playing chess against these psychopaths. They want a group soul, and he's working towards individual, unique souls. So I think this is the solution, is individuation. And yes, I'm invested in this solution, and I think it's a solution even if this guy is completely 100% fabricated. If he's completely fabricated, individuation is still my solution, and Aline's solution as well. I appreciate you watching and listening. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. I'm Nathan Martin with Divine Pollination Hive and theunityprocess.com. Be safe, be sovereign, be well.